Beep 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 beep. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to pass? Whatever it is, I don't know. It's been so long since I've sung it. Right, so Happy New Year, hello everybody. It's 2023, and I thought it's probably time to have a little bit of a muse. So I've been amusing myself, having a muse, right? On what a year it's been. And it's strange, isn't it? I was looking back at some of the content and you forget what you've done. What's that about? You forget what you've done. Right, so what I've done is I've picked 3 of my favourite videos that I did. That I put into the Dooberries downstairs. Because it's the new year, you know? And you do a bit of reflecting, don't you? It's been a hell of a year. I only started this YouTube channel this year, but it's been a hell of a year. And I was thinking about what next year will bring and what next year means and what we should be doing and how we're going to move things forward. And what I shall be doing myself personally to help resist this nonsense that we're seeing happening. And so it makes you think about some of the big events, cases that have been won, people that have fought and won, cases that have been lost, the people who have fought and lost, and how we mustn't let the current situation seem to be the end result of everything, even though it's quite worrying where we are going and what we're seeing. So my personal concerns, I thought, were worth sharing as we move into a new year. Well, we're in it now, whether we like it or not. You're coming with me. I don't want to go. So I'll give you some of mine. I think because there's so many that are very worrying, not least of all the rights of women and gay people, which is something that's being fought for very, very hard by people from right across the spectrum in terms of beliefs, philosophies and politics, which is what tells you it's truly a grassroots movement, because grassroots movements do that generally. They tend to straddle everything. And when there's a huge problem, they tend to straddle everything, and I think that's what we're seeing. But I want to focus, to begin with, on a couple of things that I'm concerned about that are on a bit of a grander scale. The first one of those is what are called the UNESCO goals. I've got a piece about UNESCO that I've done, which I'll post at some point or repost at some point so that everybody can have a look at it. The UNESCO goals are being used at the root of all this. The UNESCO goals have a huge part to play in this. And if it's something you've not looked at, it's worth taking a look at. So that's the first thing that I would say we need to be concerned about is what's happening with the UNESCO goals, particularly with move towards equity, which is incredibly worrying because we know where that leads. It's murderous. So that would be the first thing. And the second thing would be keep your eyes on academia, folks. Keep your eyes on academia, because STEM, as per my predictions 2 years ago, when I attempted to tell clients that they would fall if they weren't careful, appears to have fallen. I now have a situation whereby I've got university professors very worried. And they just didn't listen. But that's, there's some academics who have done incredible things, but not enough. Academia is really, really at the root of much of this. And I think that's something we need to focus on in the new year, is the protection of STEM. Because I think the protection of STEM will be something that resonates with Joe and Joanne Public. They understand the importance of technology, of engineering, of the right working bridge, of being able to produce things of excellence that change people's lives, the production of the likes of dwarf wheat, or simple widgets that can make the difference to people who are deaf, or can stop people who have Parkinson's from shaking. This is the kind of STEM in which we can all justifiably be proud. Science, technology, engineering and maths for those who are not in the know. So it's very, very important that science, technology and engineering and maths is left alone, but they have no intention of leaving it alone. It is the last bastion against the insanity of the woke critical social justice crowd. Now, they will then, in that case, do exactly what they've done with everything else, which is bring in equity. Because what you've got to remember is these people don't believe in merit. They don't believe in merit. It's not about merit. It's about immutable characteristic. Because they want to be, everybody's got to be the same. So there's the second one. Watch STEM. If you've got university colleagues who are in this dreadful situation where they can't seem to be able to do anything because they won't, they'll just go with the flow. Look at what happens with academics when you have the rising of authoritarian, totalitarian regimes. And you'll understand exactly what their situation is likely to be. So that's the second one. So UNESCO is the first one. STEM is the second one. And the third one is, this needs to be the year for me where gay men get off the bench. Now, there's a number of them. Dennis, Clive, James, there's a number of us, isn't there? Doing the do, Betty Boo. Yeah, lots of people already, but it's nowhere near enough. I mean, I've got friends now who know what's going on, but are just sitting there like, what do I do? Paralysed, like rabbits in the headlights. I'm like, just write a letter. Write a letter. Say no. Go in a bar and say, get that flag down. And I think it's so that's for me is the three big things. Is UNESCO first off, is worth looking at, which we'll look at more closely, and then the threat to STEM, and then getting gay men off the bench. Right, so that's my top three in my particular bag. What do I want done? And then there's other things. We need to look very closely at WPATH. We need to look very closely at the Beaumont Society. We need to look very closely at who's controlling this particular thing and where's the money coming from? Who's giving it to who? So follow the money is also something that we'll see more of this year. Some great work been done in that field already, as we've seen. And I think the production of media has been very interesting. So people are now producing films and other things that are available for people to take notice of, as well as obviously excellent books. Trans, Material Girl, Born in the Right Body. The books that are really beginning to face off against this. It's almost also my fervent wish that the Warrior Teacher Programme keeps growing, because I'm so pleased to work with these people, which is fantastic. So I thought then, what do I do about a New Year's resolution? Because one should have a New Year's resolution, shouldn't one? Old Lang Syne and all that. I should have a New Year's resolution. So my New Year's resolution this year is never give up, never surrender. If you get it, you get it. And if you haven't seen Galaxy Quest, why not? What's wrong with you? But I would also add to that just a little one that I think will make a difference to all our lives is check the followers on people's Twitter before you bother to respond to the prats. There's another top tip for you. I watched it the other day. Some major players of the game having a real big bust up on Twitter like they do, with this twit who had 3 followers. Check the bloody followers. This annoys people when I say this, because don't tell me how to use Twitter. Well, go ahead then. Chat to a 3-follower tomorrow. I don't care. But the truth of the matter is, we all do it, and it's probably a good idea if we stop. Right? We stop. So look, there's been some ups, there's been some downs. It was the best of times. It was all that business, It was the worst of times. It was the best of times, whatever it is. But to quote one of my favourite quotes, you have to remember, I bastardised it, obviously. It is that, life has ups and life has downs, and things can go terribly wrong and then things can be fantastically right. That's just the way of the world. It is a roller coaster. But remember, you really don't appreciate what it's like to be on the highest mountaintop unless you've been in the deepest valley. That was said, bizarrely enough, by Richard Nixon, who, boy, did he plumb valley depths. Happy New Year! Let's keep going.